If you have a reactive Gundog, you'll know firsthand how stressful and emotionally draining leaving the house can be. 1 minute they're totally fine, the next they're barking, lunging, and completely losing their shit. And they just will not listen either. But here's what most owners don't realise. That reaction, it didn't just come out of nowhere. It's actually been building for a while, and believe it or not, a lot of it will have been happening from your very home. In this video, I'm going to be showing you what actually is happening before your dog reacts on a walk, and more importantly, what is happening at home which is making it worse. Because if you only focus on the walk, you're actually missing half the problem. So reactivity as a whole can actually look quite different. Some dogs bark, some lunge, some completely freeze up, some pull, and some might even scream. And I bet you found that they just go into this zone that you cannot snap them out of. But they're actually all the same thing. Your dog's brain has just shifted into a completely different mode. And once they're in it, they're just not thinking anymore. And of course, you'll see the barking, the lunging, and that, more often than not, is the final part. But here's the thing. It didn't start there. So first they're gonna scan, looking for something interesting. You know, that thing that Gundogs are like kind of genetically bred to do. And then they'll fixate, their eyes will lock, and they'll start to tense up. That then puts tension on that lead, and they might pull and start to speed up. And then you've got a loss of engagement, and they just stop checking in with you. They don't want food. I've even had people say you can have a sausage in your hand and they still don't care. And then their thinking just becomes foggy because all they can think about is that trigger, and they are just struggling to process anything but. And then the reaction happens. And if you only try and stop the barking or the lunging, I'm sorry to say, but you're just too late. They're already in a state where they can't think clearly, so just don't even try. And you might be sitting there thinking, see, the thing is, I've taught them heel, and I've taught them leave it, so why aren't they listening? And this is because once they are fixated, their thinking brain has just gone completely offline. They've gone into survival mode, which is fight or flight. And you probably find that you have to get their attention every 5 seconds because they've just completely checked out. But here's what's actually happening psychologically in your dog's brain. Their hearing actually becomes hyper-focused. Adrenaline sharpens their sense of hearing so that they can detect distant threats. But at the same time, their attention is actually narrowing, and they've developed that tunnel hearing. And sadly to say, they're actually listening for danger rather than what you have to offer. And their thinking brain just shuts off. They cannot process cues, and they're definitely not going to listen to you. And you might even notice their ears pinning back flat to their skull, and this signifies that they've gone into full survival mode. And the mistake that owners make is they'll just scream the command louder directly into the dog's face, and sadly this just doesn't help at all. It actually adds more noise to an already panicked system, and this is just going to escalate their panic. And in that state, commands don't work, not because they're being disobedient, but because they literally cannot process what you are saying. Their brain is wired for survival, and unfortunately not for listening to you. And the solution is you need to catch them earlier before they've got to that point, before their thinking brain shuts down. Now this section is the game-changing section, so you're gonna want to listen up because this is the one that often gets underlooked. What a lot of owners don't see is reactivity is actually being rehearsed at home, completely under your nose. To the untrained eye, you haven't got a clue that it's going on every single day. So for an example, window reactivity. They're looking out the window, barking at every dog, person, or movement that goes past. Every time they bark out the window, they're practicing reactivity, and they're rehearsing it, getting that behavior stronger and stronger and stronger. Or take following you around the house. They follow you from room to room, which we might see as quite light-hearted, but in reality, it's your dog rehearsing reactivity, and they're never settling, so they're always on alert. And I hate to break it to you, but that's not the dog being in tune with you, by the way. They're actually in quite a heightened state of arousal. They're very stressed out. Doing this behavior is just them waiting for the next thing to happen. Now this one's a big one, constant toy access, which I know a lot of you will allow. Toys are always available. Your dog is constantly stimulated, and always in play mode. They never get the chance to actually reset. They're always living day to day in this constant state of arousal. But they might not always go for their toys, but you have kind of made the living room a playground. Next up, we have door reactivity, constantly barking at the door. Every delivery, every visitor, they're constantly practicing that reaction. Now, don't get me wrong, dogs are dogs. They're going to bark. It's naturally within their instinct to react to sound. But I'm gonna exempt the dog giving me a little bit of a bluff bark. That's completely normal. It's what follows after that. If they are continuously going for it over and over and over again, regardless of what you're telling them, that's reactivity, and it's a dog that is not listening to what you are telling them. And then we have can't settle. The dog just simply cannot switch off. So after a reactive walk, you come home and they just can't switch off. They're pacing, they're anxious, and they can't reset their nervous system. And this is because they've never learned how to chill. They just constantly are on the go all the time. In order for a dog to cognitively reset, they need to be able to switch off. And as it goes, that is important for every single dog, not just reactive dogs. And last up, we've got attention seeking and FOMO, which is a massive one for you Gundog owners. I'm looking at you HPR Velcro owners there. They're constantly seeking your attention, barking for it, whining for it, and following you absolutely freaking everywhere. They're just terrified of missing out on what you are doing, missing out on what's happening outside. And whilst a cuddle is absolutely fine and it's great, I'd almost encourage it, the rest is just reactivity. Now, as I've been sat in here talking away, you'll obviously have noticed the dog down here by my legs. This isn't Sid, believe it or not. This is actually a completely different dog that's with me, staying with me at this moment in time. Merlin here was actually formerly reactive. He would react to dogs, he'd react to people, he'd chase after birds, he'd do all of the above that you would possibly see from a reactive gun dog. But through working with us here at Bear Basics, he is now the cool cucumber that you see sat before me. Yes, he still has the desire for wanting to go in and chasing wildlife, but that is literally his genetics. The difference is this time we can control it. We can actually put it into practice and utilize it to our advantage to give him an outlet for his impulses, which within doing so has made working through his reactivity considerably easier. All of these behaviors are keeping your dog in a heightened state of arousal and stress. And when you take them for a walk, they're already wound up and they're already reactive. The walk just triggers what's already there. And you definitely, 110%, cannot solve reactivity on a walk if your dog is rehearsing it at home every single day. This one might not be a very obvious one for a lot of people, but it's why distance matters. Most owners try to work on their dog's reactivity right next to the triggers, which does make complete sense when you think about it, but here's why it probably doesn't work. You've got to work at a distance from when your dog can still think, where they can still take food, and also where they're able to disengage. You need to find out where your dog's threshold is and work just below that so that you are able to get inconsistent repetitions where your dog can actually make the good choice. And you're not going to be avoiding triggers forever, by the way. We're not going to be working at distance for the rest of your dog's life. We're just working through distance so that we can get in ample amounts of repetitions and build reliability in that skill set. And this is important because we need to build the skills where they can learn. Now, this links back to the mistake I mentioned earlier. Engagement needs to be built away from triggers first. A lot of people, or a lot of owners, try to build engagement right next to the thing the dog finds triggering, and this is never going to work. And engagement is a skill. Your dog needs to develop that skill and learn that checking in with you is actually quite important. And aside from them just looking up at you, the dog actually needs to be present with you in that moment, because I'm a firm believer that engagement isn't just about eye contact. But either way, they can't learn that if they're both distracted or over-aroused. So you're going to build it in a calm, low distraction environment first, like your garden or a quiet park, somewhere their thinking brain is completely online. And just an FYI, engagement is actually a byproduct of what you are going to be doing with your dog. The more you do with your dog, the more engagement is going to be built. And as we know, Gundogs are bred to work independently. Engagement doesn't come naturally to our Gundogs, so we're going to have to work on it deliberately, away from the triggers first. And you'll find the more you start doing with your dog, the more your engagement is going to increase. Now, this is something that I want you to start doing from now on. I want you to start picking up on what your dog does before they start to react. So your early warning signs could be scanning, their head is constantly moving, looking for something. Fixation, they might freeze up, stare, focused on the thing that they want. Tension on your actual lead, they might not be pulling just yet, but you definitely notice a significant change in tension on that lead. Loss of engagement, like previously mentioned, they just stop checking in with you and switch off and do their own thing. Speeding up, they might move faster or walk quicker towards something. Ignoring food, you might do the age-old offer them a treat and they're there turning their head away or not giving it a simple time of day. Breathing might change, this might get faster or heavier, or it could slow down drastically and get slower and deeper. Their body stiffens, their whole body might go rigid. And this is why it matters. If you can catch them at any of these stages, you can actually still redirect them. But if you wait until they're barking and lunging, I'm sorry, but you're just too late. Now, you could start a mental checklist. When you start to see scanning, what happens next? The more you notice these early signs, the more control you have. Now, if you are working on this alone and it's getting quite overwhelming, don't worry, because that's exactly what we do here on Calm by Nature. We will show you exactly how to spot these early signs, how we're going to go about managing the environment, and how we can actually build a dog that is able to think on walks. And as you will see from all these dogs that you are seeing on screen, they were all formerly reactive, and now they live their absolute best lives, just like my man Merlin right here on the floor. So just to recap, reactivity actually starts before the reaction, well before it actually, right the way in the home. And you're probably unaware to it, but a lot of it will be being reinforced at home and rehearsed day in and day out. And if you understand what's happening, you can actually change it. So start noticing these signs on your next walk and take a look at what's happening at home, because that is where the real work begins. If you've got a reactive pet Gundog, comment down below. I want to hear about it and I want to help you out. So let's have a little chat. Thanks for watching. See you next time.